history where tongue block is coming from. The tongue block is just coming from the old school playing, like where harmonica was meant for. The harmonica was meant for and built for German folk music. And people wanted to use it more like a mini accordion, like a pocket accordion, where you could play several things on one instrument. And that's also where the tuning that we use a lot, the Richter tuning, is coming from. Um, and in that time, people really played three things, and that's a good thing to think about. What you can do on a harmonica when you play with the tongue slap style that they did for the old German folk music, and what we do now for blues and other music as well. You have three things. You can play single notes to play the melody. You can suggest a rhythm by at which tempo you use your tongue to slap on the harmonica, and you have the chord sounding for a brief moment. When you don't have your tongue on harmonica, you will get a chord, because when you play several notes on the harmonica at the same time, several holes, you will have like a chord sound. I have my A harmonica. I hope everybody has an A harmonica, because we will do some exercises as well on this. But first, as a small example, and not many people listen to this to discover there are three things going on, but it's not just about tongue blocking and using tongue slaps and the big tone, what most people say. I'm more interested in what you can do when you use this technique. Um, so the way it was played, and I'll just play some random stuff on harmonica. So it's my A harmonica. As you can hear, I play a melody. Very basic one, but that's not what people were looking for at that time in harmonica. They want to have this accordion sound where you could have one instrument, small, you could take it with you and make a lot of, let's call it, beautiful noise on the harmonica. So sometimes I mix this single note playing. So just on hole 4 and 5, some basic stuff. I mix it with, because the chords that I'm playing fit into the melody. Also, what you should try to hear on harmonica, how you can use the chords to copy the melody, because the melody I'm playing on the chords is the same as I'm playing on the single notes already. This is the same as. So I do the chord that fits to the single notes, because it sounds more pleasant this way. And then when you use your tongue slaps, your tongue block technique, to create a rhythm on this. And at that time, it was often waltz music, waltz rhythm, polka music. It's all to this 3/4 tempo, and that's where the sound of harmonica comes to life. That's where it sounds best, when you mix the chord sound. It's maybe for a split second, the rhythm created with your tongue, and melody that you play from, in my case, for this melody on the from the right corner of my mouth. So I play very slow first, start with the chords, the tongue goes on the harmonica, and the single note is left on the right side of my mouth. So my tongue is like this on harmonica. The tip of my tongue is a little bit below the holes, and my tongue is like this on harmonica. It's not really covering a big part of the harmonica. I'm just barely touching. It's this part of the tongue that's doing most of the work. Many people think tongue block, you have to use all the meat inside your mouth to push on the harmonica, but it's just barely touching the harmonica. Because the moment you touch the harmonica, it's already closed. So you have to use a lot of, you don't use a lot of power to push the harmonica your tongue on the harmonica, because when you use a lot of power, and that's another thing that you should think about when we start with tongue blocking, you don't push the harmonica with your tongue, because when you push it, you lose contact with the harmonica. So it's just touching harmonica. And the first one is, this is not yet an exercise, but feel free to try this when you watch and listen to this. So I play the chord, my tongue goes on the harmonica, I block holes 1, 2, and 3, and it's not a big part of harmonica because when you look at the 3 holes and you put your finger on 3 holes, then I've blocked 3 holes with my finger, so the part of the tongue has to be no more than this to block these holes, and not what people think the middle part of the tongue that goes on harmonica, because that would be like 4 or 5 holes. It's just the tip of the tongue, just a little bit further. That's the part where you touch the harmonica. So, and then hole 4 blow is sounding. And then comes the step where you create a rhythm, this 3/4. Da 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 da. That's what the tongue is doing. Da 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 da. And a bit of dynamics comes from the breathing. That's the last thing that comes when you play this style of music. You play a bit louder and more quiet by using more air and less air. So this, and in general, I try to put a little bit more energy on the first note of the lick that I'm playing. So, as you hear, you can make variations just by using your tongue well coordinated to touch the harmonica. So don't think in terms of slapping the tongue on harmonica, it's just touching the harmonica. As soon as you touch it, it will close the holes. That's enough. So it's a very gentle way of playing. And when you hear it, it sounds like a bit more aggressive when people play in blues style, the tongue slap style, but it's just touching the harmonica. The slapping is just how quick you put your harmonica or your tongue on the harmonica. So this is the traditional way. And you hear when I breathe in and I change the rhythm pattern, I use little air and every now and then a bit more air with more pressure from a diaphragm to get a volume, a dynamic accent when I play. So you can hear there's a little volume accent to make it more alive when you play. So this is the basics of tongue block playing. And this way of playing, when you master this way of playing, and you should really start with easy stuff, with children's songs, with folk songs that have a strong melody, to learn how you play the single notes on harmonica and how you move on harmonica. So the coordination is really one of the biggest things that stops people from playing tongue, because it's a different way of moving on the harmonica. Moving is coordination, and you should practice thousands of times certain movements on the harmonica to to feel comfortable when you do this. So this is the basics of tongue block playing, and the rhythm, the way you play it, whether or not you use bending chords in a different way or double notes, double stops, decides how it sounds when you do it in a blues style. When I translate this lick that I played to a rhythm pattern that fits in blues in a shuffle rhythm, it sounds totally different. So this is the old school. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the rhythm that you use all the time. When I go to a shuffle, so now I do a typical rhythm for shuffle playing. This could be like a part of a lick when you play blues, but the feel, the technique, the coordination is the same as when I play on folk music, this German folk music. It's just the speed of how the tongue is put on the harmonica and how quick you release it again decides how it sounds. In general, when I play more folk music, old school music, I'm a bit more gentle on touching harmonica. When I play blues, I do it a bit quicker, which makes it sound like a slap. But there's not a huge difference in between these styles. So already a lot of talking. When someone has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat because this is already about the basics, but it's covering several subjects already. So please feel free to ask questions on this. Um, One of the things that we should think about when you play tongue block, when you try to mix it with your the way you maybe used to the poker style, how can you mix this, and why and when you do this? But first, there's one thing in between, and that's as it happens, the last 2 or 3 weeks there was a little bit of talk about on Facebook on a hybrid way of playing, but I prefer to go back to another way of playing that I started with without knowing what tongue block was, because when I started playing in 1960 already. When I was 8 years old, I played on a chromatic harmonica that was from my father, but I always wanted to do several things on harmonica, so I soon found out that I could do something with chords and with my tongue without knowing what I did. But then I when I started playing blues some years later, I went to the pucker style because it felt easier in the beginning to hit certain holes and to have my bendings on harmonica. But then I found when I listened to recordings that the old players sounded totally different, and I just by coincidence I found it had to do with the tongue using on the harmonica. And then I developed my own way of playing, and this was around 1970 or so. And since then, when I started teaching, I called it the and it doesn't sound very nice, but I call it a fake tongue block, because when I do this, and now I will translate it to the more blues style that where I use it for. When I play the tongue block style, that's what I heard on the recordings, but I did. And this is all done by this fake tongue block style. And everybody who now expects from this lesson to learn how to tongue block, I really, I really suggest you try this as well, because this will give you a bigger range of what you can do on harmonica. What I do is I start with my lips. I'm covering 2 or 3 holes. So this is the my mouth, and I just make it smaller. I go from wide to small. It's like, I think you can see it. I think I start on 1, 2, 3 draw, and I close pocket style on 2. Because I start breathing on the first 3 holes, it sounds like a chord, and you have this tongue block effect. When I overdo it, it's really like biting while breathing in and putting your lips on hole 2. So, and the faster you do this, the more coordinated it sounds, more and more like tongue block. This is a tongue block. This is my fake tongue block. To me, there's almost no difference between what I do with my fake tongue block and my traditional tongue slap tongue block style. So this is again tongue block where I play. This is the fake tongue block. This felt so comfortable to me that I used this for a long time, and only when I met other people and we were discussing about playing harmonica, I realized there's more than just this what I call fake tongue block, and I started to find out about tongue block. And I'm still talking about a time when there was no internet, no books, no videos, So I had to find this all by myself, just by listening and trying and finding out what can be done. So let's, as an exercise, do this fake tongue block. Um, we will take a simple bluesy lick to create this. But first we start on hole 2 draw. So it's 1, 2, 3 draw. You go from wide to small, wider mouth to small. So I really open up my mouth cavity and I drop my jaw to get a bigger sound. And then up, you can do this like 4 times, and then you do it on the blow note on hole 2. What is very important on this exercise, when you do this, your lips should be relaxed. Only when you go to the pucker note, the single note, you have a little bit more tension in your lips because your coordination changes. But when you do this, make sure your lips are really like, this all the time. And now it's just when you can learn to control this, you can translate this to any lick that you want, to any hole on a harmonica. You can go to hole 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and do the same. Sounds like high notes tongue blocked, but it's just, again, it's this fake tongue block style. If anyone has a beautiful name for this technique, please let me know on the chat. I would be happy to use this in my lessons as well, because I haven't found a good name for this. There's one question coming up from Jerry. How long does it take to stop? That's, yeah. When you have a lot of saliva coming up, when you start with tongue block, the most of the times it comes from a physical reaction. We people are used to, when we put something in our mouth, it's food or maybe a drink, let's call it food, and your body responds, okay, food means chewing, means saliva. When you play a lot, your body learns to accept the feel of putting something in your mouth and not having this huge amount of saliva, because that's blocking the harmonica. And Jerry says tilting up helps indeed. Tilting up is also very, it's not something that I advise, but it's something that you could try. Maybe a better advice would be when you play and people play from tabs and the tabs are on your desk, what do you do when you play? You bring your head down. When you have a little bit more saliva than you should have in the beginning, it will run into harmonica. When you sit straight up, doesn't have to be very rigid like this, but when you sit more straight up, the saliva will not go when your harp is in this position. So there's no need to tilt it because this is already enough. Tilting is something that some people advise. I'm not a strong believer in that, because when I do this, and now we will go back to the basic exercise. When you do this, I will sit more sideways, then you can see where my lips are on the harmonica. I'm not having my lips on like this on the harmonica, like this. My lips are really like, that's why my jaw drops. And then I make it. But really my mouth position is open. And maybe you can see my upper lip, how far it is on the harmonica. And my lower lip as well. Even with pucker style, I try to get my lips as much as I can over the harmonica. When I play only pucker style, I think when I sit sideways, you can see it that I'm still having my lips quite a quite far on the harmonica, like this on the cover place, not like this. When you play like this with your lip like this, you tend to pinch and your sound will get very thin. This is pinched. This is pucker style. Now I will slowly move my lips forwards and drop my jaw while still puckering. Almost to the lower edge of the harmonica of the cover plate. So it's as far back in my mouth as possible while I pucker. And this will immediately give you a better tone because when you drop your jaw, your mouth cavity gets bigger, you get a fuller sound, a fuller tone when you have this. This is, my lips are like this, and I use the drier part of my lips when I pinch a lot. And it sounds very thin because the airstream is restricted to this part of my mouth. As soon as my lips go on the harmonica, my mouth cavity does this, which also opens up my throat. And my throat is my valve to use my lungs and my diaphragm as well. It's the whole chain of diaphragm, lungs, throat, mouth cavity, lips. That's what you have to open all the time. And start with relaxed lips, drop your jaw, put it way back in your harmonica. You can see my jaw as well when I pinch. And it's still pucker. I'm still using this, but the way I create the pucker style on one hole is I use the inner part of my lips to create a smaller hole. It's maybe like this far between my lips to create a small hole that seals one hole on harmonica. And not this part. And this makes a huge difference in tone building. But both techniques are useful. Sometimes in a certain style, when I want to have a sound that is very, very piercing, because I need this tone to stand out in a song, I use what people call the wrong technique. It's not a wrong technique. This is a way I can use it to create a certain sound, a certain tone. When I want to have the 5 draw sound very aggressive, very nasty, then I use this technique where I use the 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 dry part of my lips. And I hope the microphone picks up the details, how it sounds. It's okay. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, this makes a huge difference. I see some names coming up, by the way, for the quasi tongue blocking. Yeah, munching. Uh, let's see what we can use for this. The drafting technique. I'm just checking the questions. Okay. Yeah, Barry's writing it took 9 to 12 months before it got better when you with saliva, etc. But it takes some time for your body to accept this way of playing. So I hope this was a bit away from tongue black because it's important to use this when you play tongue black and to know about this technique. So now we have the pucker notes, we have the chords, we have the fake tongue block, and we tried a little bit of the standard traditional way of tongue slapping, tongue blocking on harmonica. Now it's a way to incorporate this in your practice sessions when you do this. What I would suggest, and we will practice this as well, is that you start on hole 4 blow, and from there play the major scale on any harmonica, doesn't matter which key, and then you do a certain you have a the way you practice this has a certain order, and I will explain this. What we do is we play the major scale, which is starts on 4 blow. There's a major scale that I think everybody knows. If not, it's quite easy to find. Then for tongue block exercise, you start to play blow chord on holes 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's all you start with. Make already a habit of this to when you play a blow chord, that you open up your mouth cavity, drop your jaw, and make like a ha sound. As you can hear, the letter H in my throat is ha. It's already giving it a bigger sound. Ha. Then the next step is you hold the chord and you slowly bring your tongue forwards. And the position is, again, what I showed like this. The tip of the tongue is quite close to hole 2. And then you bring up your tongue a little bit on harmonica. And think again, it's just this part of the tongue, no more than one finger of your tongue, which is this part already, enough to block 3 holes. So play the draw chord or the blow chord and slowly move your tongue and see if you can find hole 4 to sound clean and precise. When you practice this, make sure you're very, very critical on what you play. If you can hear the single note, perfect. Not like one hole coming in or maybe missing the hole a little and slowly moving up. No, it's really. And again, the same sound. So blow chord. And my tongue is no more than this. When you have problems finding the holes, what you can do without playing on the harmonica, use the tip of your tongue to find hole 2. It's easy to find hole 1 with your tip of your tongue because you feel the side of the harmonica. Then you feel hole 1. Go to hole 2 with the tip of your tongue. Try to find it. When you can find hole 2, then you lower your tongue a little and make your tongue a bit wider. This should already be enough to cover 3 holes. So, hole 2, bring the tongue down on the lower cover plate, make your tongue a bit wider, move it a bit forward. That's in fact, the movement that you make when you play harmonica. So let's try this again. 1 to 4 blow. Make sure you hear a single clean note on 4 blow. So that's always the first step where you start with. Then we go further up in the scale. It's 4 draw. Now it feels a bit strange in the beginning because when you breathe in, your tongue tends to come back a little. When you breathe in with a bit more power, you will feel your tongue automatically move back a bit in your mouth cavity. When you like this, like you all of a sudden, you frighten your tongue wants to go back. And we need to do the opposite. We need to breathe in and bring the tongue forward. That's why it feels a bit strange in the beginning. So let's combine these two things. And the good thing is because we stay on hole 4, you don't have to move your tongue to another position. It stays in the same position on the harp. You only lift your tongue and you bring it back. So make sure you hear the chord sound in between. So it's slow. And learn to control the movement, how you touch 3 holes. And make sure, and sometimes it's good to stand in front of a mirror, that you're not pushing the harmonica. Just gentle touch is enough. So When you have mastered this, when you can do this, then the a bigger hurdle comes when you have to move to hole 5. Are you covering 5 holes, 4 holes, or maybe 3 holes? That's most of the times a personal thing. Some people play tongue block on using 3 holes. I do it in general on 4 or 3 holes. Sometimes on 5, but that depends on what I'm doing. Let's see if some questions come in. Okay. So let's do a sequence now of 3 notes. I will play them first slow, and then I'll slowly increase the tempo and see if you can follow what I'm doing. Make sure you play all the time the chords. Now, it's not a tongue slap, it's a chord, block, single note. Controlled tongue blocking. I'm back. Again. So you see the moving to hole 5 is already a big hurdle in the beginning when you're not used to play tongue block all the time. Once you master this, you can move to the next hole, then you can translate this to the whole scale. I will play the scale now slowly. When you have listened carefully, you may have noticed I played very clean single notes, same volume, same attack all the time. And this may sound simple, but this basic exercise, when you don't do this many times, you will not have the full control when you start to play more tongue block style in blues. You need to be able to play when you want it, single note, clean sound all the time. And stay slow when you practice. Take your time. So this is the basic exercise, and then you can do the scale from hole 7 to 4 again. Another good thing is make a habit of it. When you miss the single note halfway in the scale, stop, start again. It has to be very disciplined in the beginning, and it sounds a bit boring, but yes, it will help you very quick because you have more discipline when you have to play tone block in the end. And coordination and discipline will make you a better player right away. It doesn't take a long time. After a few weeks already, you will notice I can play my melodies better. I have more control when I play tongue block. So this was the slower part. And when you master this, clean sounding single notes, scale upwards, backwards, then you can slowly increase the tempo. So it goes from slow. The next step will be. Etc. Then a bit faster. But again, still clean single notes all the time. Very, very important. Now, there's nobody has this question so far, but how far does your tongue go back when you play faster or slow? That's a thing to think about. When your tongue is on the harmonica and you take it off no more than this, like 1 millimeter, it's already there. You already have enough air to make the chord sound. People often do this. A slap has to be like this on the harmonica. You see the harmonica move, you lose control because you move too much. It's barely lifting the tongue and bringing it back. Unless you want to have a bit more of a slap effect, You use a bit more movement, but still, I'm not doing this because I lose control when I use a big movement on the harmonica. I will lose control in the end, especially when you have to play complicated melodies and licks. So let's try this on the on four blow and four draw and see if you can stay very close to an harmonica with your tongue. So my tongue is almost touching the harmonica. Take it off as little as you can. Then go to the draw note. And you may notice you don't need to make a big movement. It's just lifting the tongue a touch, and that's already enough. In the end, after a while, you may even notice, and this what I found out, like maybe 10 years or so, 10 years ago. Sometimes there are licks when I use tongue block. My tongue is on the harmonica. When I want to have an effect of having chord sound, the tip of the tongue stays on the cover plate. My tongue does this. So the middle part, is not, but just be a bit further than the tip of my tongue is where I can move my tongue. I do this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing this in a very short, controlled way. I will show it to you. The tip of my tongue stays on the cover plate. So that could be another exercise that you can add to your repertoire to how to exercise tongue block. Stay as close to the harmonica with your tongue as possible, and maybe keep the tip of your tongue just touching the lower cover plate and use little movement to touch the harmonica. It doesn't have to be like this. That's what I do a lot when I play very fast stuff, because I make the movement smaller, very well coordinated. So this is the basic stuff. We did one blow, one single note. Now we will do this, and this is where the movement of the tongue comes in play. We will do two, let's call it slaps. Still making sure you hear the chord. Don't speed up. Keep it slow. That's where you get the control. You need this control to be able to play tongue blocked when you have practiced more of this stuff. And of course, this can be translated to 3 times, 4 times. I stop with 4 times because it still sounds musical when you do this a bit faster. But 3 times is a thing that is used in blues a lot. So all this stuff is used in blues. Again, when you practice 3, slow down, you hear the chord, you feel your tongue moving, and you hear a single note. Etc. for the scale and back. And then you go to 4 times. And it's very tempting to speed up as soon as you get more control on what you do on harmonica. But slow down, know what your tongue is doing, feel what your tongue is doing all the time. When you have the control and the coordination, you're a better player right away. So this is the basic stuff. Next, what you can do, play melodies and use different rhythms for the melody. Play folk songs, play children's songs, play Christmas songs, play all the things that you can do, major songs, mostly on the middle part harmonica. Yeah. That's just a small example of what you can do, but anything that you can play in the major scale and most of the times it's folk songs, children's songs, some pop songs, with or maybe a melody that you know or a lick that you know. Play it pucker style, play it the fake tongue block style, play it with slow tongue touching, tongue slaps. Then you have three techniques that you can use to play this melody. I start with pucker, then the fake tongue block, and the tongue block. So you can use these three techniques, and after a while you mix these techniques when you do this. And then you can you when you listen to other players, you will hear, hey, this is more tongue block style. This is probably fake tongue block. This is more pucker. And then you can decide when you need a certain technique, a certain sound, a certain tone, which technique will I use? When I use this, for instance, this lick on blues, which is very fast, I tend to use my pucker style because I know I'm a bit faster. Not really. I can do a tongue block, but I prefer to do it pucker style, maybe fake tongue block style, because it gives me a more aggressive sound, which is for this lick what I wanted. I wanted this to stand out really. I don't want to have this gentle with tongue block and tongue steps, everything. I want to have this sound. That's where my choice of which embouchure will I use, pucker, fake tongue block, or tongue block. There are people who play 100% tongue blocked. There are people who play 100% pucker, and there are many people who play this hybrid style. And I think most of even of the professional players use hybrid style, although they can tongue block everything, but they use this hybrid style because it gives them more possibilities to create certain sounds that they want at a certain moment. I see a question coming up from Paula.
Yeah, there is a question there from Paula.
Yeah.
She did ask it twice, so I meant to interrupt you before. So sorry for that about that, Paula.
No, there's no articulation. It's just how fast, how aggressive I close my lips decides how it sounds. It's one breath. It sounds a bit like a tongue slap, and when it sounds like a tongue slap, people think it's more like a T articulation. T is often used to articulate very fast and very quick on harmonica. It's easy. Or taka taka taka, what is often done. So, what was I saying before the question? Oh yeah, but the choice for which style you play, and as I said, when I have a very fast lick, I tend to go to my hybrid style, and I throw in as soon as I find it's needed. I throw in my tongue block. When I start with this lick, I go back to tongue block, according, and have a big tone, because then I have this contrast of a very nasty sounding lick, and it ends in a mellow chord stop style. So I want this mellow chord that's 100% tongue blocked, mixed with this pucker style. It works for me very well, and it's up to you to decide what do I want to achieve with tongue block, pucker style, fake block, any style that you can do. And if tilting the harps help you do it, if you play it like this, do it. If you play it like this, do it. I'm not saying you have to do it like this. I am telling you what I'm doing. I'm showing it and why I'm doing it. It's why I'm doing it is maybe the most important. So, and one of the advantages of tongue block is that you have to drop your jaw to put a harmonica like this in your mouth. Dropping your jaw means mouth cavity opens up, you get a bigger resonance room for the tone to develop itself. You open your throat a bit more when you go more to the ha sound, and it will sound bigger, even though, and um, no, I should say, when you translate this tongue block style, big open throat sound to pucker style, you will notice after a while when you've practiced this a lot that your pucker style, your tone will develop, will get better as well, because you don't put this much energy in squeezing your lips. You open up more like. You get a very wide range of sounds that you can create by just using your mouth cavity. I hope the microphone picks it up again. I will see if I can show the huge range of sounds that you can have by just creating different mouth cavities. So and I ended with my jaw all the way down, with my throat open, using my diaphragm, and this sounds like my tongue block tone. Tongue block 4 jaw, buckle. Pucker and tongue block to me sounds almost the same. There is a little difference, but it's so little. When I play it with my way of breathing, with my way of thinking on the harmonica, it sounds almost identical. But again, it's what you need is it's that's decides which technique you have to use. Um, So I'm using all these things in most of the styles that I play. I play most of the times blues, but I play jazz, I play funk. Sometimes I play even classical music on the chromatic harmonica, where I do the same things. On the chromatic, I do the same as on my diatonic, tongue block style, pucker style, more aggressive, bigger tone, aggressive tone, anything that I need. It's a harmonica. And you should hear me playing the harmonica. I shouldn't fight the harmonica because of my poor technique, because that will ruin my tone. That will ruin my sense of rhythm again. So let's go back to the major scale, because there's more coming to this. When you master this one time, two times, three times, four times, slow it up, speed it up, keep control, use your tongue as little as possible, small movements, clean notes, single notes, everything. You've done your homework, and this will really, after a few weeks, you will already notice the difference. Then you can start to use this in different rhythm. You start with a shuffle. My tongue is ta 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 ta. That's my tongue doing the tip of my tongue. Ta 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 ta. And then you can even find children's songs and bluesify your children's song or your pop song or your folk song. That's the waltz style, the traditional style. So I'm doing a bit more aggressive tongue blocking now, a bit more slapping, but not big movements, not a huge slap. It's just the energy of how you use your breath, your breathing technique to create certain sounds. And this is one thing that is not really in the tongue block style, but I like to tell this because I use this a lot. I use my throat and breathing sounds to create an extra rhythm. Sometimes I do this while playing. without this sound, with my throat sound, it sounds like a bass drum in the background. So that's another advantage of playing tongue blocks slap style. When you use your throat, it sounds like a bass drum. It's a low note, not really very loud, but it's there. That's your singer nose. Throat sound. I'm doing this all the time when I'm playing. It sounds more, it sounds richer. You get more frequencies that you hear when you play harmonica. And people tend to like this frequency where it sounds fuller, rounder, better. So that's one thing that you when you happen to find this way of playing, do it when it suits you. It's not that you have to do it. When you think it's useful, use it. So now we've covered most of the techniques that you can use, how to practice tongue block, how to use it very controlled, very well structured, controlled tongue movement. Your breathing is okay now. Then the obvious question, and that always comes, how do I bend when I play tongue block? Well, the bending technique is no different when you play pucker style, a tongue block, because the bending doesn't come from my lips, doesn't come from me touching the harmonica. I'm bending with my throat and the back part of my tongue. So when my tongue is on harmonica, it's just on the harmonica. But because it feels different in the beginning, your mouth cavity is different shaped, most people tend to overdo the breathing technique that you have to use for bending. Let me see if there are some questions in between.
Okay. There are quite a few questions going back about 15 minutes, Ben. Do you want me to read some out?
Yeah, let's do that, and then I go back to the bending again.
Okay, there's one. It was the second part of Paula's message. I see she's just gone now, but she was saying, could you show how to use false tongue block and get a shuffle rhythm?
Okay, I can show it. I will do just a simple shuffle pattern. And I'm a little bit articulating it with my throat. That's what I'm doing with my throat, and the rest is done with my tongue and my with my lips and finding the singer notes. And this articulating with your breathing is very essential in playing blues. And after a while, you don't make this noise anymore. Your breathing does this. It's just articulating with my throat. So it's not T, it's really K. This is the fake tongue block. And my lips are doing this all the time. So this combination of learning to use your lips and controlling your throat is doing this fake tongue block shuffle rhythm. I hope this explains it a little. Some more questions, Sam?
Yeah, there was the one about how to bend whilst tongue blocking, but then there's someone mentioned about U bending. Is that your tongue shaped in a U?
No, I tried it. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. It doesn't feel natural to me. I can do it, but it just doesn't feel natural. So I practiced it a few times, maybe a few weeks, to find out if it's useful, but it doesn't bring anything special to me because I already had all these techniques that I could do, so it didn't bring anything new to me. But that's me. When you find it's useful for you, do it. I will never tell you it's wrong. It's just something that someone can use. Use it when it suits you. But be open for any other technique. That's the message for today, of course. Okay, another one.
I think we're up to date with the questions,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
If anyone's got anything else, then just throw it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, let's come to the bending, and I think it's best to do this on hole 4 draw. When I bend hole 4 draw, let me first play this. It's a very controlled bend. When I do this tongue blocked, same sound, same bending, same intensity when I do this. So my tongue didn't move at all when I did the bending. But it's the shape of my throat, the opening of the throat is deciding how much I bend. And what you can do, think in terms of breathing in with a ha sound. So the throat stays open all the time. And to get the whole range of going to unbend to bend, try to think in terms of using E, A, A, O, U, O. It's a huge opening of your throat. It's almost like swallowing, something like choking. That's how you learn to control your throat. You can make this sound way back in your throat. Now I'm closing it in between. I do oh, oh, oh. When I want to bend it more, I go to ho. When I do ho, ho, ho on the harmonica on 4 draw, most of the times it will bend already. So you can start with this with pucker. See if you can find your ho spot in your throat to bend 4 draw. It's all done by. And then when you do this and you manage to get the bending with this technique, you just have to bring your tongue on the harmonica, bring it to tongue block position, and see if you can do the same with your tongue on the harmonica. Not I don't block it off with the letter H is always first. That's where your throat is open and you can make it a bit smaller and wider to control the bending. This is tongue blocked what I do. This is pucker. Tongue blocked. The same. Only my tongue is on the harmonica. The breathing technique, the breathing sound is the same with this. It takes some time to get used to this because it's for most people a different way of bending on the harmonica. So did anyone manage to get this? Does it work for, please let me know if it works for you. You can say it or put it in the chat, or I think there's some.
Yes, someone's mentioned, Lee's mentioned that it's helped him greatly.
Okay.
Yeah. And Peter, I think, is nodding. Anyone else? Oh, and Graham. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So for some people, I think for most people this will be helpful. It's just you have to practice this a lot and watch this video again and see if you can hear the details and bring them into your way of practicing and playing. This was on hole 4. On hole 6, it's just a smaller movement with the throat. Your throat is a bit more closed because you have to have a higher pitch. Your throat is a bit more closed. On hole 2, it's bigger. Hole 4, if you think in terms of large, medium, small, on hole 2 it's large. Hole 4 is medium. Hole 6 is small. And you can translate this again to the blow bendings. It's the same technique. This is tongue blocked. Pucker. The same breathing sound. I do a TFU sound when I tongue block. TFU. When I do this with my tongue, I put my tongue, yes, on my lower teeth. And I can do the same sound again. This is tongue not on my teeth. It's like spitting. This is tongue blocked. The same breathing sound, the same throat position. And it's so often confused when you play tongue block, you have to adjust everything to get a bend maybe going. Do the same, but be aware of how you breathe, how your breathing sound is, where it's made, how you use it. That's where the bending happens. And this will also be very, very helpful to your bending when you play pucker. When you play pucker and you do the same, no articulation, just changing the breathing sound. Letter H always as first, which helps you to develop the muscles that are involved in bending with your throat and not your tongue. Using your tongue to bend, to articulate a lot, will make you sound smaller. Your tongue will get thinner because you close your mouth cavity. I'm always aware of how I use my mouth cavity to create sounds. When not to tongue block, when to tongue block. When I want to have more rhythm, I use tongue block style. I use tongue steps. When I have bigger tone, I use my tongue block. When I want to have something faster, something more aggressive, I use my fake tongue block. When I want to have a very piercing sound, I use my pucker style every now and then I mix it. But where you start your bending, it should be maybe a bit different from what you're used to. When you are used to bend with a lot of power, with this is the piercing bending, breathing in instead of, and I can do the E with my throat as well. Just he sound. Just my throat. I'm gonna use a bit more coordination in my throat by closing up this valve in my throat. Think in terms of you have a valve in your throat that's open, little or more. But when it's closed, there's no air coming in and you can't play harmonica. So control the valve in your throat by using letter H's first and using all these different sounds. E, A, A, O, U, O, E, A, A, O, U, O. E, A, O, U, and breathing in is uncomfortable in the beginning when you have to breathe with when you try this, think and feel, is your diaphragm maybe moving with this? And yes, the answer is yes. When you do this open sound, letter H is first, my diaphragm is now controlling how much this whole column of air is moving. And that's where the big tone comes from. That's where the control on the bending comes from. Combined with, again, with my fake tongue block, I start with he, ha, ho, ho. When I'm in the ha, I bend without thinking because my throat is in a bending position. This almost choking sound. And even the small steps in bending, I don't think in terms of semitones on a whole too. I make small steps. Like 8 steps or 7 or 6 or 5, I don't care. It's just I create a certain sound by using mini steps on the bending. So when I practice my breathing sounds for controlling my bendings, tongue blocked and pocket star, I don't use semitones. Only when I need a semitone and I want to control it, I take my tuner and I check it. The rest is more, how can you use this in a musical way? The musical way of using this is using the rhythm created by the fake tongue block or the tongue block style and combine it with the bendings and the different sounds that you create with E and A and O. This was all tongue blocked and using my throat. But this shouldn't be much different from practicing the major scale. Then I'm using the E, he, breathing sound in my throat to create this more piercing sound. And I mimic the T with my throat. It doesn't sound like a T, it's more like D or K or H, but I think in terms of T and it sounds almost like a T. Now I do TK, breathing in, combined with a tongue slap. And this is another thing that's related to the tongue block style. Sometimes I use this throat sound, this TK sound, and not playing the harmonica. This is, I do, this is my first sound, and then I go to the tongue block note. When I speed it up, you might notice I'm not playing, but I'm not playing by creating this sound. And then you mix this with different riffs. And again, very little movement. Maybe holding your tongue on the cover plate tip of the tongue and only do this. The very fast things that you sometimes hear from Walter Horton and other players can be done with the tongue on the harmonica. The tip is here. I'm only using this. It's just lifting my tongue like this and no more than this. When I do this, it's a big movement and I can't do this speed. This is very light, very delicate, but it sounds big because I have a big cavity. Etc. But it doesn't have to be like what I tell you to do, but it's something that it works for me best. And it's up to you to practice this and see, can I use it in my way of playing? And when you have more control on your tongue, on the movement, on the breathing techniques, on the breathing sounds, then you mix this with your standard licks. Maybe you feel comfortable just playing the blues scale. Blues scale in single notes, Pucker style. I think most people practice this and use your things that you practice with a major scale. One slap, two slaps, three slaps, four slaps. That's one slap. Two slaps. Etc. And then you get a huge variety of things that you can do on harmonica. And this will absolutely make you a better blues harmonica player. But again, when you're not only playing blues, translate this to anything that you play. Think, how is your tongue building? How can you use your mouth cavity? How can you relax your tongue when you tongue slap? Um, and this was mostly about tongue slapping, tongue blocking. But there's more you can do when you learn to tongue block, because the next step would be playing octaves on the harmonica, controlled. I don't. Sometimes I shouldn't call it octaves. Just controlled tongue blocking on two holes. This is 1/4 blow on my A harmonica, and I block holes 2 and 3. When your tongue is capable of feeling how many holes you're covering, octaves are easy to play because you have more control on the muscle. Your tongue is a muscle. And when you start going to octaves, you can do the same things as we did with major scale. Do it with one slap and on the octave. Do it with two. One and do two. This is just working on my coordination. Left and right at the same time. 2 and 3 are tongue blocked. 3 times. So controlled tongue slapping on the octave sound. And then you learn to control this in maybe in a blues song. Typical first position blues stuff, starting with the octave, tongue slaps, using it to create a certain sound. And this will give you, as I said, a wider range of sounds that you can use on the harmonica. So any questions?
Yeah, there's 3 questions, Ben. The first, going back to 3 o'clock, from Chris Pickett.
Yeah.
How do you breathe in 2 directions when you block the middle holes to give a bass rhythm? I'm not quite sure what that means. Where's Chris? I can. I've asked you to unmute, Chris. Do you want to? Here you go.
Yeah, I'm just thinking when someone's playing a tune that is just an ordinary rhythm tune where you've got the bumba 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 on the bass, and then you're playing the tune above. Is that just where you're tongue blocking, and then the actual rhythm is coming from the fact that you're playing the tune as well? Do I understand that correctly? You're looking puzzled, Ben. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I'm thinking how I can translate this to an exercise or demonstrate. When it's in blues style, it's that's what you mean with this?
Yeah, that's similar to what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking more in terms of when someone's playing a traditional tune like Shenandoah or something like that, and they have a rhythm that is playing along with the actual tune. Now, are they using their tongue to actually block?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that the way it's been done?
Something like this.
That's right. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
I do some rhythm accents by using my tongue block. I play slow. I do very little tongue slaps, but just enough to create a rhythm that fits the song. I think this will answer your question.
I think that's correct. Thank you, Ben. Thank you very
Thanks, Chris. We've got one from Lee. How do you use an inflection on tongue blocking? For example, when puckering using the qua or qui to inflict a bend on the natural note.
What's inflection? Because English is okay for me, but some words.
Can I unmute you, Lee? Yeah, or I can ask you to unmute anyway. Oh.
Yeah, so for instance, when you go 2 seconds on the sixth draw there,
Yeah.
just putting the bend on straight up to the natural note, just to inflict that sound.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly like that, Ben. Yeah.
It's again what I said about this breathing technique. I do
Right.
and then I can do tongue slap with it if I do a tongue block. But the basic thing about this bending inflection is you go from E to O. So the step is more from E to O with while breathing in. And it's best to start to practice this with pucker style.
Yeah.
Then you slowly try it with tongue block. Pucker.
That's
tongue
excellent.
block.
Thanks very much, Ben.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers.
Okay, and the last one is from Ricky. Could you demonstrate blow bending tongue blocked, please?
What you can try to imagine when your tongue is on the harmonica, there's air between the how do you call it, the upper the roof of your do you call it roof of harmonica of your mouth cavity? So that there's an air between the tongue and my mouth cavity, the top, and I squeeze it a little. I bring it a bit forward, like when I play my normal blow bending. I do my tongue pushes a bit forward, and I do this with the middle part. I make it a bit smaller, which squeezes the sound more into the hole. When you put a bit more pressure, more air into this hole, it will start to bend. Think in terms of okay?
Is that okay, Ricky? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really useful. I've struggled with tongue blocking on blow bends. I can pucker them fine, but doing them tongue blocked, I've always really struggled with. So that gives me some tips. Thank you.
Okay, well, maybe a question to Ricky. How many times did you practice pucker style blow bends, and how many times?
yeah, that's
I know the
exactly yes.
When this is the answer for everybody who's listening. When you start using this and practice this in detail, it takes you in general, when you play maybe 3 times a week or maybe every day, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it takes you 6 to 8 weeks to get used to this different coordination. That's just a physical thing that I know from sports. I've done a lot of sports. I'm still into it. 6 to 8 weeks is in general what you need with a lot of practice to get confident on a new way of moving on the harmonica. Just moving on the harmonica.
Yeah.
And learning to control your muscles in a well coordinated way. That's tongue block. It's not because you need to play tongue block because all the old school players did it and they sounded so wonderful. No, just a new thing to practice that you can use to maybe sound like them. I think it's more important to sound like yourself for everyone. I have my own way of playing after so many years of practicing. I have my own tone, and that's something to think about. When you do this, find your way of playing. You don't have to copy me. I tell all my students, I don't want you to sound like me. You do all the practice that I give you, practice my sound, practice my way of tone building, and decide where you go from there. I give you the tools. You have to learn to use the tools. I gave you some tools for today. Learn to use them. I was, let's go back from, I did some questions. I was on the octaves. When you do octaves, you can do the rhythm as well. But what not many people do is using smaller splits, playing 3 holes and block 1 hole with the tip of the tongue, because this gives you a wonderful combination of overtones. The harmonic overtones sounds very good when you play certain splits on harmonica. And that's just a science thing. You can find which harmonics you build when you play a certain note and when you play a combination. When I do, for instance, on the 1, 2, and 3 blow, and I block the 2, this is 1, 2, 3. When you hear this and you wouldn't know what I was doing, you couldn't tell me how many notes you were hearing when it's good. When I do this, when you close your eyes, I don't think you can tell it's just 2 notes. There's almost like an extra bass note coming. There's an extra high whistle coming from all the harmonic overtones, the low ones and the high ones. So it's a very beautiful thing to practice on 3 holes and block with the tip of your tongue. My tongue is now like this in hole 2. And the same beautiful effect comes from 2, 3, 4 draw, blocking hole 3. You get a beautiful drone when you do this, and the sound will get richer, bigger. It's just find how wide is my mouth when I play 3 holes. Find with the tip of your tongue the middle hole. It took me a few weeks to learn to control this, but now it feels natural to me, and I use it in my playing as well. Sometimes in blue, it's done as well. It's not a typical 2-5 draw, what many people do. I do the 3-5 draw, and I block hole 4. But that's just something, a thing that I found that I can use a lot. So we had octaves, 4 holes. We had 3 holes, 2 holes. I do it sometimes on the lower part harmonica. I play tongue block on hole 2 and block hole 1. But for this, an important tip, when you play hole 2 draw and you want to play from the left side or the right side and tongue block, the corner of the harmonica has to be inside your lips, like this. You can't do it like this. Which gives you a bit of a tongue block. You don't have the whole chord, but you get a big tongue block tone when you put the harmonica not like this, but like it's almost when I overdo it, it's like this. And one of my favorite licks doing this, and this is not really an exercise, but this is something that I practice a lot. I do this with tongue slaps on hole 2 draw and 3 blow. It's the same note on harmonica. And then you can do this. This is a very good practice to control your breathing pattern from blow to draw, to switch holes because you have to move 1 hole, and you can practice using rhythms with your tongue step. And then you can practice the bending on 2 and on 3, etc. But this is just a good way to practice the basic stuff for tongue blocking. So, any more questions?
No, I think that's it. Ben.
One more thing, one little thing, Sam. We had 4 holes, 3 holes, 2 holes. 1 hole is obvious, that's a tongue block. How about 5 and 6 holes? I stay on hole 1. I go from 4 to 5 to 6. This is just gymnastics. This is just learn to control your mouth cavity, your tongue, your lips. Doesn't have to be like this. It's a very good way to get used to move on the harmonica, to control your tongue, to control your lips. And it sounds nice. just a way of practicing and doing funny things, which are very useful in the end because you control the tongue, your lips, your throat, your breathing technique, and your sounds, which you do in blues all the time.